This is the biggest camp in the world, with about 400,000 people here. It's one of the most remote places in the world too. Very difficult access in a long rainy season.
Avec beaucoup de saisons de pluie, etc.
I was in Somalia 2 years ago. I'm working as a field officer, which means we do everything. We have to make sure everything is going well in the camp and all refugees are happy about distribution and water situation, health situation and so on. So I come here every day solving problems. It's our job.
You are in charge of how many people here?
Nearly 80,000 people. Here everything seems to be impossible, but somehow it works out. When I arrived, I had no idea how a refugee camp is organized, what it involves and everything. And now I think I know, much more things than I used to do.
How old are you?
27. I'm really glad I'm here.
Problem solving isn't an easy task when it's on a scale as vast as in the Ngara camp in Tanzania, close to the Rwandan border. Nearly 500,000 Rwandan refugees have found asylum here, crammed into makeshift shelters. Although their plight is fading in the public memory, they are now totally dependent on international aid. Midori Paxton is Japanese. She trained as a journalist in Britain and Japan, and now she's a UNV, a United Nations volunteer, working for the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, the body responsible for coordinating the many international and non-governmental organizations involved here. The miracle is that it works at all.
We do have a very good relationship with the UN. It's a very cooperative and a lot of communication between the agencies. The NGOs, the non-government organizations, and UN, very good communication here. I think it's one of the model places in refugee situations.
One of the people behind the miracle is Jacques Franquin. He was here to witness the extraordinary exodus of Rwandans, which has made Ngara the largest refugee camp in the world.
Nous avons reçu en un jour 170,000 Hutus.
In just one day, 170,000 Hutus arrived here with practically nothing. We had to organize what amounted to an entire town in just 24 hours. In a very short space of time, we had to organize the people, providing them with living conditions which are far from luxurious, but which are at least acceptable. We have a mortality rate here which is below average in Africa, and I believe that's something to be proud of.
But many of these refugees took part in the genocide that killed 1 million people.
Clearly, in a town of 400,000 people, some of them are probably guilty, but many of them have done nothing at all. The humanitarian principle must remain uppermost, which is to help them. On behalf of UNHCR, the High Commission for Refugees, we must protect the refugees. But over and beyond that, it's for the international community to decide. The important thing now is to set up the international tribunal, but in the meantime, we've each got to get on with our own jobs.
You've got a lot of people working here with you, in particular some Japanese UNVs. What do you think of these volunteers who come here to help?
I believe they're the miracle of the UN. People from different cultures, different origins, all working together. When you consider our United Nations volunteer from Japan, and you look at what she's done, it's absolutely fabulous. She had to learn the job in 15 days. And when I say job, I'm talking about being camp manager for 80,000 people. That's what she's doing here. But I think if you asked her, she wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
Et je crois que quand on lui pose la question, elle n'a plus envie de faire autre chose.
But it's not easy, and it could be dangerous.
C'est pas facile, c'est même dangereux.
It's not easy, and it could be dangerous. But you feel you're doing something useful because we can improve the situation for these people. For instance, we're now having to cope with endemic cholera here. But thanks to the field officer's hard work, We're managing to stabilize the situation.
Des field officers, on parvient à maintenir la situation.
Refugees accused of stealing food at distribution sessions have been arrested and taken away by the Tanzanian police, despite protests from other refugees. Field officers, who are often young women like Midi, must use tact and diplomacy to dispel tension and avoid disturbances which could escalate into riots if food runs short. Indeed, the main problem here is to feed these hundreds of thousands of refugees. The WFP, the United Nations World Food Programme, provides rations in the form of wheat, oil, rice and beans. A tried and tested system of family food cards helps avoid fraud and makes sure each gets his due. There has to be a continuous convoy of hundreds of WFP lorries transporting food from the distant ports of the Indian Ocean all the way to this camp at the back of Beyond. How long will these refugees have to stay in the camp, in conditions nothing less than precarious, before they can go back to their own country? It's impossible to say. Rwanda's civil war and the appalling genocide suffered by her people have left deep scars. The UNDP, the United Nations Development Programme, is helping the new Rwandan authorities rebuild their country and ensure respect for human rights, a key element in the long process of reconciliation. At the age of 40, Jacques Franquin may have reason to be losing faith. He's from Belgium, a former theatre producer, and he's worked for UNHCR in Kurdistan, Sudan, and in the town of Bihać, which was under siege by the Bosnian Serbs. For years now, he's been witness to the horrors unleashed by human stupidity. But Jacques Franquin still believes that these refugees will learn from people like himself and Midi, who've pledged to help them. Their example may perhaps overcome the hate and terror which are now holding to ransom the very future of this part of Africa.
On a peur très souvent. On a peur, pas nécessairement pour sa vie.
You're often afraid here, not necessarily because you're in physical danger, but afraid because a small mistake could bring about the downfall of this entire town. These people's lives depend on the decisions we make.
Despite the genocide, you still have faith in humanity?
Of course, the genocide took place. The people responsible must be brought to justice. But I believe that most of the people have been traumatized, more than anything else. They're sick and they need care. We are in a way acting as psychologists for these people. And if we can give an example of integrity and support, I believe that the people will see it. When they see us working for them, they'll understand that the world isn't entirely rotten. And this will slowly and surely lift their spirits. Yes, I still have faith in mankind. I think the work of UNHCR, the NGOs and the United Nations is the best example we can possibly give to help these people leave behind the trauma they've suffered.
Pour sortir de leur traumatisme.